Digital 410 Productions proudly presents the What's the Scuttlebutt podcast with your hosts Dodd Abernathy, Jeff Copsetta, and Henry Sledge.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the What's the Scuttlebutt podcast, your favorite World War II-based podcast, even though I feel kind of guilty for saying that in present company. But anyhow, it's another Monday night. We are here, and we got some big stories to hear from Henry and Leighton and all the things that went on in New Orleans that Jeff and I are feeling regretful that we were not a part of. But without any more further ado, speaking of Jeff, Mr. Jeff Copsetta, sir, how are you doing tonight?
Good. I feel like the guest tonight because I've missed the last couple of weeks. I'm sorry about that.
Well, welcome to the show. Speaking of Johnny on the spot and always here and faithful one, Mr. Henry Sledge. Henry, how are you doing tonight, sir?
Doing okay. Doing good.
You holding up? Had a busy weekend.
Yeah. It was good, man. We had a really good time in New Orleans. Dragged this British dude home with me.
Well, I was going to say, for the first time on the What's the Scuttlebutt podcast, this will probably be the closest thing we have to an in-studio guest. So joining us via the satellite office with Mr. Henry Sledge, returning guest nonetheless, Mr. Leighton Hughes. Sir, how are you doing, sir?
Yeah, not bad, mate. I don't think the jet lag's kicked in yet, so I think I've passed that point. And I'm great. It's been a great day. It's been a great weekend. So yeah, it's pretty cool to be here.
First and foremost, I was wondering, is this your first time to the States, or have you been here previously?
Been here previously. I went to New York, I think it was 2005, and I visited occasionally when I was in the Air Force, doing a 24-hour visit to Vegas, in and out, land, hotel, out, get back in time to get for Wheels Up.
So what you're saying?
A few times, but
so what you're saying? All your American experiences are going to like the circus. I mean, those are like the biggest, the biggest tourist traps around. But yeah, so how are you liking a more calm United States as far as not being in New York or Las Vegas?
I love it. It's different. I've said to Henry, when we've been driving around the homes that we've seen, absolutely beautiful. Although he probably hasn't taken me across the side of the track yet. But the space that people's houses have around you, it's insane. It blows my mind. Where everything in the UK is very condensed.
It depends on.
There's a bit of.
I was gonna say, it depends on where you live and what year in which the homes are built. Obviously, they're built in the 40s, 50s, 60s. They got a more wider space, a bigger yard. Or if you're out in Texas, like where Jeff's at, whereas I'm in Florida, my house was built in 2007, and I think there's probably 14 feet of space between mine and my neighbor's home. So it definitely depends on where you live and what year your house is built. But yeah, that's the nice thing about here is you can get what you want depending on where you want to live, really. But for those who aren't aware of what brings you to town and the going-ons, what make you and Henry so exhausted, Henry, why don't you guys explain to the listening audience of the endeavors in which you guys partake in this weekend?
Yeah, so this weekend at the World War II Museum in New Orleans, it was the 20th anniversary symposium of Band of Brothers. And it actually was canceled twice because of COVID. So it should have happened like a year and a half ago. COVID kicked that to the curb. But it finally happened. Almost all the actors came in. Leighton came in, at the beautiful World War II Museum and just a fantastic facility. Bruce McKenna, Kirk Sadusky, a lot of the Graham Yost, Tony Toe, John Orloff was there. John Orloff, Jeff, he is the guy who's the main writer for Masters of the Air. So,
okay.
Yeah. So, the creative team and the actors were there. They had a panel, or several different panel discussions. And, man, it was just cool to be there. I had not been to the museum since 2010. So, it was cool to see all the changes and everything and just how the place has grown. And then to see the actors up there, reminiscing and talking about the making of Band of Brothers and their various interactions and how they got their parts. It was just really cool, man. I mean, just a great, great weekend.
Leighton, what was your opinion of the museum in and of itself, Band of Brothers aside?
I thought it was fantastic. Yeah, like Henry said, it was magnificent. On the Friday when I arrived there, I went across there with the history chick Sarah, and we started exploring before Taco joined us. Just absolutely incredible. Obviously, we didn't want to spend too long in there because they had various talks going on. So we attended the boot camp talk with Dale Dye and Freddie Joe and Kirk Sadisky, I think was moderating that, who was just phenomenal. I had an amazing interaction with him back at the hotel bar just an hour later. I thought it was brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And we had a really good look around on the Sunday before we left and went through the Road to Tokyo exhibit, is that what you call it? Just unbelievable detail. Unbelievable.
And while we were doing that, let me add, Leighton did it separately. I went through with my family, but while we were doing that, I had on my WTSP t-shirt. So got us a little, and guys, let me jump in and say this, not once, but twice. I had some random person come up to me and say, really like your podcast.
That's fantastic, because Jeff and I have talked about this in the past. Sometimes we kind of feel like we're doing this for ourselves because we all have such a heavy passion for the topic. And it's like, I don't know, I almost feel like the three of us would get together and do this over a conference call on the phone, even if it wasn't live or being recorded. And it's nice when that happens. Like when you told us that over the text, I told you, that happens to me time to time, but it's usually when I'm at a World War II event where I'm I'm in a different state. And so people come from other states around, and most people, a lot of our listeners, they don't go to our website, and, a lot of them don't watch the videos. They watch it in the format in which it's originally intended, which is the audio. And so it's not until they hear me talking to somebody that they recognize, you're that guy from that. Yeah, and so I get it from time to time when I'm at an event and people hear my voice, but it's definitely, mind blowing. When I first met, when I went out to Texas to hang out with Jeff, it was a weird situation because he had a young volunteer with him. Not only did this kid say, "Hi, I'm a big fan of your podcast, but by the way, I briefly went to the same high school you did, and and your daughter did." So that was even more of a little, holy crap, it is a small world. I flew to Texas to meet a kid who grew up in my same town and went to my same high school with my daughter. So that was even a little crazy, but it's definitely enjoyable, and it's kind of like almost makes it all. It's one of those things. Oh, it definitely makes it worth it when complete random stranger just walks up. He says, "Keep doing what you're doing."
Well, and I told you guys about the first one, which was Lance, Lance Faulkner. The second guy I did not tell you about, but man, it was cool because, like you say, it's just like, okay, man, people are paying attention. We must be doing something right. So that was cool. Absolutely.
What was your, obviously you guys were there for the Band of Brothers symposium, but what was your overall opinion, before we get into the Band of Brothers stuff, of their Pacific-based displays?
You want to go first on that?
Oh, I thought it was brilliant. Like I said, I thought it was absolutely outstanding. It's all done in chronological order, so you're walking along. I definitely saw this for the the European theatre of war. It had a map of Europe, and most of mainland Europe was red to signify that was in Nazi control. And obviously the two grey areas being Portugal and Spain. But as you move along, each becomes blue. I think it was blue. Obviously, so that's the Allies taking over. And there's the same for the Pacific Theatre of War as well in Road to Tokyo. The details, seeing E.B. Sledge, little stand for him, and Basilone, Ernie Pyle, Desmond Doss. I thought it was absolutely outstanding. It was a lot of time and effort has gone into that display, in my opinion.
When you walk into it, you see pine tree. You see palm trees. There's which looks like when you're going through the ETO part, you're seeing a part where the Battle of the Bulge. I mean, they have like a video effect of snow falling.
Oh yeah.
Say again.
I said, "Oh yeah." Sorry, we lost Jeff. I'm inviting him while participating in the conversation. So they had like,
I don't want to.
No, they had like palm trees and Imitation Snowfall. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, Imitation Snowfall for the Battle of the Bulge, but like for walking into the roads of Tokyo, man, the palm trees. I mean, it was, and then like the Tarawa part, pretty cool. The seawall, yeah, I thought it was cool. I love the display. They had a 37 millimeter in a position there. I mean, sandbags, it's. And Richard Frank is the guy who quarterbacked that, so I mean, you feel good about that. So
now I don't know if there's a way to quantify this, or it's even justifiable or even comparable. But I think out of the four of us, the only one who could truly now make this comparison would be Leighton. Is there something different the way that obviously it's a huge museum, so it may not even be fair, but is there a way or something you notice that's a little bit different the way that they display things compared to maybe some of the larger museums over on your side of the world?
That's a good question.
I mean, once again, it's probably hard to quantify because of, the funding behind it, but there may be something a little different. Maybe the terminology, just, I don't know, like I said, between the four of us, you're probably the only one who could make that comparison.
I mean, yeah, it's been a while since I probably, the Imperial War Museum in London, obviously in Duxford as well. I think the Americans have got it nailed down. Although the museums in the UK are fantastic. It's been a while since I've been to the one in London, so I won't comment too much on that in case I get it wrong, just through memory. But just the level of detail that New Orleans went into, the time, the effort, you can see it. The interactive technologies that they had, with the dog tag swipe card. I've got my wallet next to me to show you. You walk in, there's a train. You get.
Oh yeah, I didn't even walk up to that. Can you get on that thing or?
Yeah, you just they give you a card.
Okay.
The train starting up sort of thing. I was with Sarah, and it says put your card here. When you're told to, and you get given somebody who served in the war, and you get to follow their journey through. So every time you came to a station, you just swiped your card, the information would come up, and you can get, at the end of it, you go on the website and you can pull down all their details at home, so to read up a little bit more, under less pressure of having to move around.
Sure,
I thought that was absolutely brilliant.
So basically, they're kind of starting off the presentation, if you will, is everybody who enlisted started out on a train somewhere and went to their basic training. So that's a really cool way to kind of kick off the self-guided tour, if you will.
Absolutely, and it's one person. Look, you're following one person's story, so not to put down say the Pacific or Band of Brothers, with Sledge or Lecky or Winters or Garnier, whose service career has been well publicized. Sure. You're getting somebody else, who would have served in a different unit in a different battle. So it's you're highlighting other areas of the service, so it's not just folks on 101st, it's you're looking at other units. I think that's brilliant. I think it's utterly brilliant.
Absolutely, because it's kind of like what we often say, Jeff can, jump in on this too, in the living history world is we try to keep the memory of those people alive. So here's the museum trying to bring the memory of people that no one really knows about alive. And two, we often say the best way to get people involved is to personalize it.
Absolutely.
When you're building an impression, or find someone in your local town or your state and build your impression off of that group, that unit. That way, when people come to your living history event, instead of just hearing about some random people that have no face, here's a group from your same town, quite possibly could be related to. So that's very cool.
Yeah, it really was.
The pavilion where they had the symposium, massive. Was it the Boeing Pavilion?
Yeah.
Massive room, obviously. And you walk in, and I mean, Jeff, you would have loved it, man. They had a B-17 hanging from the ceiling, had a B-25, a Corsair, P-51 Mustang, TBN or TBF, a Dauntless dive bomber, and I think I'm leaving something out. I mean, it and then they had these catwalks up several flights of stairs. So, like, my son loved going up there because you could literally walk up to the top catwalk and you're spitting distance from the top of that B-17.
Oh, wow.
I mean, it's pretty amazing.
Probably get there and count those rivets.
You could, yeah. I mean, you could look right down in the cockpit. They've got beautifully outfitted or suited up mannequins in the cockpit of the B-17. Now, not like the Corsair or the Dauntless, but and then they just had this beautiful display of some flight jackets up there. I was just, man, it's going to kill us, man. Masters of the Air, I got to get an A2, and they're going, they're going to be $1 million after Masters of the Air.
Yep, got to start bidding on them now.
Yeah, I know. Now, y'all need to steer me on the best place to go to get a good one because I'm not sure about that.
That would be Jeff. He would have to, when it comes to the Army Air Corps stuff, Jeff would have to lean you in that direction.
We don't have to get into that tonight, Jeff. But I'm going to be hitting you up on what's your opinion of the best. Because I don't want a mall jacket. You can get one that called an A2 and it's really not. I would want one that's pretty damn good.
Yeah, for sure. I was at that museum about 4 years ago. I want to say it was about November of, I want to say it was 2018, and that was my first time being there. And all the stuff, they got everything. I thought it was really neat. The I don't know if they still do it, but kind of an orientation theater where Tom Hanks is a narrator. It was like a 4D experience.
Oh,
and
Beyond All Boundaries.
Maybe yeah.
Yes, yeah. We saw that the last day. Yeah.
Yeah, that was really slick. But I gotta say, I there was one thing I was surprised about was I thought there would actually be more artifacts. And I guess I say that because I was still working with National Museum Pacific War at the time that I went to New Orleans.
Sure.
Yeah.
And when you have the amount of artifacts on display that museum does, and then you go to what's supposed to be the museum, I was actually a little I mean, the airplanes and everything, it's like Disney World for World War II, which is great. I mean, it's a memorable experience. It was really cool. Me and my wife went with another couple, and right next to that train is the submarine. Did you guys get to go in the sub? It was
which one?
Same setup. You get a card just based off of, when you're in line, they're just handing them out, and you go to that battle station, and it was really cool. I got to be the torpedo man.
Nice.
So,
do you remember which sub it was?
Oh, I couldn't tell you. I don't have any idea, but yeah, it was like everybody's having to do their job, and there's little screens in there that kind of coach you as to what you should be doing. And there's a screen kind of all the way around as if you're seeing like a 360 periscope. You can actually see above the waterline. And you can see the Japanese ships out there, and they say fire away. I'm hitting that button as quick as I can, launch those torpedoes. And it was a successful mission. We sunk the targets, but we still got hit. And it replicated at night, a specific night where this sub, I think it actually went down, and there was guys climbing out, trying to get on the water. So after you go through all this nightmare, like Leighton was saying, you scan that card, and you see what happened to your guy if they went down with the sub, if they were picked up later, or if they, made it out of the sub but drowned before rescue could get there. So, yeah, they, like Don was saying, they humanized it. They made it to where you don't need to know anything about World War II to understand the impact that World War II had on the country and on the world. I guess I just expected 25,000 artifacts looking at the size of the buildings, and that's not necessarily the case, which I'm not saying it's a bad thing.
That's surprising to me.
But that's a good observation because I looked at some pictures. Somebody posted a host of pictures on the Nimitz. And now that you mention that, yeah, I mean, looking at that, there was some pretty high-powered artifacts in that place. And that's an interesting and accurate observation, I guess, because I didn't think about that till you said it.
Well, it's interesting you brought that up because one of the things I was going to ask Leighton, I was speculating, well, European-based museums probably had a lot more artifacts because all our crap was over there. But I guess clearly they would because apparently the museum has a inordinate lack of actual, artifacts opposed to there's probably all high-dollar displays and presentations.
Oh, absolutely. When I was in Normandy back in June, you've got the tanks there, you've got, the vehicles, and you can see where, the rounds have hit. Obviously, they just picked them up from, the barns, or, people have collected them, dragged them off the battlefield and stored them for, and obviously museums come along and picked them up and shoved them in a building. And obviously it's a lot easier. Obviously for the States, it's a little bit different because nothing happened, no World War II battles happened on obviously mainland America. So a little bit difficult to get all across. So obviously I think it was a uniform of an African-American US Marine, which was pretty cool. That was amazing to see, who had served in World War II. But yeah, Jeff's right, artifacts, I love to see that. And I did notice that there was a lack of artifacts, but not that it's a bad thing, but I think it adds a lot of context as well to displays.
I'll say this, guys, and Jeff brought up a great point. So Saturday night, we had, I met Jeremy Collins, who's director of symposiums and conferences. We had a couple beers, and I want to, you guys, I've said this, I want to like build a little outbuilding and have some mannequins in there and, get one suited up in flight gear, one of them dressed up like a Marine, and have some things in there. I'm beginning to think, and I want to do that, but I've got, as you guys know, I have my dad's stuff. And I told Jeremy, I'm beginning to have the thought I want to get his things into a museum. And there are some things, Jeff, out at the Nimitz. There are some things out there. And 20 years ago, I took some stuff out there. But I've got a lot of things here, as y'all know. And I kind of broached that subject with Jeremy, like, I'm starting to think they need to be where more people can see them.
Well, not only that, but I think, and Jeff can definitely, contribute to this because his working with museums. Not only do people see them, but I think we as civilians, we underestimate the effort to preserve things. For example, over my shoulder here, I talked about this in my early episodes. I have a propaganda poster. I bought that poster on eBay, stole it, got it for like $15. But I told myself, hey, I want to hang this thing up. But you can't just hang up a poster. It's going to get sun faded. Luckily, at the time, I did computer work for a frame gallery. So now I have a $13 poster in a frame. Luckily, I did trade on, but that's a $150 frame because it has UV protected glass. It has acid resistant paper, and it is museum quality and behind me, the green screen is covering up my window so no sunlight gets in here. And so in an effort just to protect a $13 poster that I stole off of eBay because somebody slept on the auction, luckily I was able to do trade, but otherwise I'd had to drop $150 on a frame just so the damn thing doesn't fade and doesn't wither away. And you have artifacts like that of your father's and you think, well, they're just sitting in a box. Jeff can tell you, just sitting in a box, in the inappropriate box, it will deteriorate.
Yeah. Well, Jeremy can't guarantee anything. I mean, he's got to talk to the curator. I mean, he said, Henry, it'd be awesome. But he said, I can't. And I appreciate his rectitude, but I'm just starting to kind of begin to have that thought, but and not to make it all about that.
Yeah.
To go back to the point about maybe some more artifacts would be a good thing. But it was well attended, it was really active, busy. It was good to see that. So
how was the overall Band of Brothers symposium? How did the whole going on outside of just the regular, visiting of the museum and touring the museum? How did the whole organization, the interview process, did they have meet and greets and Q&As and all that stuff with the actors?
Obviously, what I do, I don't obviously come too critical. Obviously, what I do will be happy few. Honest opinion, suppose it was fantastic. Chris Langlois, who's Docker's grandson, spoke fantastically about,
when did he speak? I missed that.
He spoke to you when you had, he was with Shane Taylor. You had obviously Gene Garnier with Frank John Hughes. You had Robin Lang with Trish Heffron. So that was the family sort of round table. Fantastic. That was probably the best talk. I mean, for myself, I've heard a lot of the guys speak quite a lot about their experience, and it's the same stuff. It doesn't really ever change.
Sure.
They've got it nailed down. not that it's a bad thing, because, there are people there who haven't heard those stories. So that's probably my own doing for having listened to a lot of that stuff. The boot camp with, Freddie Joe, Dale, Stokey, fantastic, absolutely fantastic. Jason O'Mara was the O'Mara, who played on Meehan. It was his first event, so that was pretty fantastic. Great to see him there and being invited there, considering he was only there for a short period of time in the show. I'm a guy who goes to conventions. I'm not embarrassed to say that. I'm 40 years old. I'm not impressing anyone. The autograph sessions at the end took a lot of time. It was poorly done, in my opinion. You get the T's and C's. I think it was 2 or 3 weeks before the event, and it was like, right, no posters. 2 items, which is fair enough. No posters, no pieces of memorabilia.
Oh, you can take a see. We didn't go after the last thing. We got out, went back just to start resting up. We didn't go to the actual signing thing because Leighton had already got me a poster, got a bunch of people to sign. So I was good on it. You couldn't have a poster?
No, you couldn't. I was getting mine done in the hotel, which the guys were very happy to do. But for that, there was some guys I couldn't get in the hotel just because I couldn't see them, or I'd missing them by a few minutes. But it was like, oh, you can get a book signed, which you can buy in our bookstore, but we're going to mark the price up an extra $3. Cheers. Or a DVD box set, which you can buy from our bookshop, from the merchandise store. X amount. Well, I'll just bring my own. But it's just like, I don't want that. I want to display something.
Yeah.
I can't display a box set. So I think I was in the queue with somebody I met in Normandy in 2019 with his wife, Ryan Muse. Good 2 hours, obviously in the Louisiana heat.
So it wasn't even in air conditioning. You had to queue up outside.
We had to queue up outside.
Wow.
Yeah, they obviously moved us all out. Very poorly done, in my opinion. They should have kept it in the pavilion and just had the guys, outside, in the hallway, and just done it row by row.
Yeah.
They could have sat down, they could have relaxed, and done it that way. But no, they had people queuing. I think when they realized there was a lot of people and it was taking a lot of time, we'll put a water station out there. It took a little while for that to come out. And when you did get in there, because the guys had been signing for so long, you had, I think Jeremy said it was like 500 people there. Yeah. So give and take, 50 people have gone off. So you got 450 people, So this signing and your items are just flying down the line. And you got people ahead talking, and it was a bit of a jam, and you're not able to, have a good interaction with the guys or girls, as your items getting signed, because people are talking and items just flying past.
Yeah.
So a couple of times I had to jump out a line, grab my item and bring it back to where I was, because I wanted to say hello to people, there's people that, Eric Jensen, who I hooked, who was the writer on 3 episodes, and I was able to hook him in with the Barnes family at Holborn last year. I wanted to know how that was coming along, how his conversations was coming along with those, and others as well. And I did get that chance, but some I didn't, because my item flew down the line.
Yeah.
And obviously I'm having to move down the line. So that was probably poor on their part. I could have been a lot better. But overall, the talks were good. They were good.
You said, when you first said no posters, no artifacts, things like that, as far as the signature goes, my first thought is, well, I wonder if they're trying to prevent people from having all this cool stuff signed just to turn around and sell it on eBay. But then you mentioned, well, you can have books or DVDs available in our gift shop. And then it all kind of fell together. But yeah, and there's nothing wrong with trying to sell a book or a DVD, and I understand you don't want people walking around with big poster tubes all day, but I mean, if it's something small and it doesn't affect the poor logistics of getting people through, I don't know why it would really matter, other than it just seems like they're trying to move some merchandise.
People are getting them done in the hotel, though.
Yeah.
I mean, you had but they don't listen to this. A mother-son combo.
Roly poly.
I mean, I don't want to name names, obviously I don't get in trouble here. Yeah, luckily I don't know their names.
Don't worry, nobody listens with the exception of the 2 people that said hi to Henry at the museum. So
I didn't just use a real name.
They were brutal. I mean, they were the people, and that was the thing. I mean, I saw them. They weren't even staying in the hotel. And I remember coming down for breakfast on the Saturday, and they were there outside, the private area where, the cast and crew were waiting. with their items, you know, and because obviously they knew that I knew people, because obviously I was speaking to them the day I arrived with Sarah. We were outside chatting with a coffee, and obviously they were asking, you know, who we were, what we did, you know, and etc. And because one of the Band of Brothers actors, Mark Lawrence, came across and was talking to me, and we got on very well. You know, she knew that I had a connection, and obviously we've chatted about, you know, the We Happy Few project. So when she saw me, she was always asking me questions. I'm like, I don't know. I'm here. That was the mother. Yeah. You know, I don't know. I'm with the Unwashed, you know, for this weekend. I'm not with the guys. So it was, you know, even on Saturday, I don't know where you were, you know, but they were in the bar. We were at the table, and they were literally sat around in the sort of lobby area, you know, in the little seating area by the concierge. And they were just waiting. I walked off to go and wash my hands because I'd eaten a burger and my hands were greasy as hell. And she just comes, oh, you know, do you know where, you know, the guys were, you know? I was like, I don't know. They're having the private food. What time does it finish? I'm like, and they were there waiting. And as soon as they came out, bang, they were there with all the posters. And I thought, you're the reason why they're not letting us get our posters signed. Mm-hmm. You know, those are the sort of the bad names that, you know, ruin it for the rest of us, and very frustrating. But again, I suppose that's why the museum were doing it. They probably wanted to make a few extra sales as well, because the hotel probably wasn't, you know, priced enough. But no, like I said, it was a great experience, but just frustrating we couldn't get, you know, posters signed. And I could see why, because of people like that. Not pointing at Henry there, but people.
Damn it, Henry! There you go, messing up for everybody. Can't take you anywhere. Speaking of,
I just want something signed. You know, I didn't even go to that, man. We were, like I said, we went back across to his point, though, talking about how things were queued up. After you came out of the room, the huge pavilion where the symposium was, it's this massive line. And we're like jumping people going around, just trying to get outside to go back to our hotel across the street.
Yeah.
And some lady, you know, she had a guy in a wheelchair. She could made some snarky comment. I'm like, we're not waiting in this. We're trying to get out of here to go across the street. We're not even going to the signing. Yeah. We have nothing, you know, but they were going outside to get back. Yeah. It was because we went back over and sat in the bar, and then Taco came over there, and then Sarah was over there. Yeah. And Andrea and I, we're just watching people stand in the heat, man. I mean, it was
could have been done better, in my opinion. I'm not used to that sort of heat from where I'm from, so it was quite difficult to be in that heat for such a long time. And I'm sure we could have all looked at that and gone, we can have done this step. You know, hindsight's a wonderful thing, but they got to take into consideration a lot of other factors as well. And okay, the museum's open, so they got to deal with that as well. But having people stand outside for a couple of hours, you know, and it took them a little while, you know, for me, it seemed like it took them a little while for click in to go, oh, we need water because this is red hot weather. Very short-sighted, in my opinion. Could have been done differently.
What's surprising to me, though, this is the National World War II Museum. Like you said, you go in, like Jeff said earlier, you go in there and they had Tom Hanks pre-record some monologue stuff, and they've had other large events. This isn't your local museum ran by your local Veterans Affairs chapter who, you know, got this graciously donated to them as a charity event, and they were in over there. You figure a place this big who's had experiences, I'm sure, similar type deals would have, I don't know, I'm just a little surprised that they didn't have a more, at least what I'm gathering, a better grasp on the logistics of this whole thing. It's just kind of surprising to me.
Well, you know, you like to think, you know, if they do anything else, you know, they do it again, you know, for the Pacific or Band of Brothers again, say for the 25th or the 30th, you know, they can look at it and go, you know, lessons learned, you know, like yourself, you know, ex-military, you look at something goes wrong. Why did it go wrong? You know, so I say, what can we do differently to make it run smoother next time?
I mean, I don't want to look. It's a great facility. We love the people there. They've been good to us. It's all points being duly taken here. I mean, it's a great place to go visit. A lot of fun. That aspect that was just being mentioned is certainly that was true.
But I mean, they shut the bar at 10 o'clock. I mean, what is that about?
Well, that's not the museum. That's a new.
That's the hotel.
In New Orleans,
look, a lot of things have changed. A lot of things have changed. I mean,
the pandemic.
The days of pulling up to a hotel and having bellhops come out and get your bags and valet your car so you can just walk in and get your room. It's not like that anymore.
Then again, we're all old enough to remember you used to be able to check your baggage at the curbs at the airports. Those days are long gone too.
You go in. We had to drive it. This is now Leighton obviously flew in and took a cab. For us, we drove. This is after 5.5 hours on the road. We're coming through. I mean, driving in New Orleans is not like driving in Birmingham. So it's raining. There's people everywhere. I don't know the streets. We're trying to navigate to the parking deck. We made 2 busted passes because the entrance is not easy to see, and there were delivery trucks blocking it.
Mm-hmm.
So we get past, finally come back around, and we're like, that's it. We got to go left in there. Not an easy turn. We get up to the 3rd level of the parking deck. You get out, and we're schlepping this is me, Jack, and Andrea, okay, hauling all our bags down 3 floors in the parking deck to get in. And everybody's carrying their own bags. There are no... like I said, man, it's not like it. This is not the World War II Museum. This is traveling in general. I think things have changed a lot. I think COVID and staffing, that's my point here. This is not throwing rocks at a facility. It's my point that COVID has changed a lot of things.
And what you said about staffing, we often forget about the great resignation of 2021, 2022. Side note, Carrie had physical therapy tonight. I dropped her off when the gym came back, have a podcast, don't have time to make dinner, stopped at Arby's. Sign on the drive-through sign. We're closing at 8 tonight due to lack of staff. So definitely staffing is a big issue. People, especially younger cats, they expect more than what places are willing to pay, and so no one wants to work.
Yeah.
Jeff,
beautiful museum. I mean, beautiful hotel.
Sure.
But my wife, Andrea, knows. She's like, this place is world class, but I mean, it's like there could be more people working there.
Yeah.
And that's not the museum's fault. It's just the way it is now.
I think it's managed by.
It's Hilton.
Hilton, yeah.
It is Hilton.
So things like it says, waiting for a drink. Well, first of all, the bar shut was at 10 o'clock.
That's crazy for New Orleans.
Saturday night. I mean, my God, like even
with a major event there.
Yeah,
exactly. That was very disappointing. But you order a drink and you were waiting half an hour. It's not an overly busy place.
Yeah.
And it was just, that was crazy for me. I've always thought you guys, hospitality is your game, in America. But I mean, again, whether that's, it's managed by the Hilton, whether that's Hilton's responsibility in getting the staff in all this down to the museum, I don't know. But that was pretty poor. But like I said, it's a world class, it was a gorgeous hotel, beautiful hotel, really was. Everything about the food was gorgeous. But it's just like I said, things took time. Like I said, a minus point on the weekend, but it didn't disrupt, did it? Because we were talking.
Oh yeah, it was a blast. I mean,
incredible.
Even Jeremy, we ordered a beer, and he's like, "Dang man, is it taking this long to get a beer over here?"
Yeah.
So I get up and go check on it.
I mean, even with a museum employee telling us the bar is closed, yet they're in there having a little hoo-ha, and I thought, whoa, you're across the road, sweetheart. I didn't say that, but I was like,
how dare you?
Just being a little bit, overprotective of the cast, but we've been socializing them for the evenings before. I thought that was a bit bizarre. That's my own personal take on that, but. Outstanding, other than that, outstanding weekend. It was a fantastic event, outstanding facilities. The museum was incredible. And like Jeff said, probably a little bit more artifacts would be nice, but it doesn't take away anything from the museum and what they do, because it is pretty phenomenal.
Jeff, you got any questions or comments?
Deeply regret that I couldn't be there.
Me too.
I'd love to be complaining about it taking too long to get a beer hanging out with you guys.
I know Jeff and I were talking before the show, and we kind of joked about it when you guys came on before we went live. It's like, Jeff, we're the only ones out of all the entire World War II podcast community that didn't go to this thing.
I'm there.
It's like we totally dropped the ball.
You don't know about it.
Hey, this is the first thing I've done in forever. So,
I know, but
I mean, going to a museum is what I mean.
But respect to Henry, we've had you plugged it a few times, and I'm seeing social media hey, there's Freddie, there's Sarah, there's Leighton, there's Henry. I'm like, okay, there's everybody. There's Taco. It's like, yeah, me and Jeff are like, okay, we're just here in Florida,
Scott
Texas.
Gibson was a little bit disappointed not to be there as well. He hasn't told me that, but he obviously sent me a couple of DMs, and I love Travis Scott have been there, and I think obviously, personal circumstances probably dictated that a little bit for him, but I think he's another one. So you're not alone. I think, and it'd been great to have had everyone there, all the friends that we've made.
Maybe next week, Jeff and I will maybe next week.
Sorry, Joe.
No, I was going to say maybe next week, Jeff and I and Scott will get together and we'll do a podcast called We Lonely Three.
Hey, well, I mean, the thing, he may come back for the international conference in November. Can you guys get over to New Orleans for that?
Jeff, you and I, the three of us need to get together and figure something out. It's not that far of a drive from here, from Florida. I'm not sure how far of a drive it is from where you're at. And obviously you got a busy schedule for friends and family, but I definitely want to try to make it happen. Now that I actually have a career that pays my vacation days, I definitely want to make it happen. So we'll
just keep it in mind. I mean,
no, I definitely want to.
Cool if we could hook up, and.
Well, that's what I was joking earlier today. I was like, I said, how absurd is it that Leighton made it across the pond to visit Henry in person before Jeff and I made it to meet Henry in person, and we've been on this podcast together for a year and a half now, and we've yet to meet up in person.
About a year, coming up on a year.
The timeline's so crazy since since the pandemic. Speaking of can't take anywhere. What is it like to be in public in person with Mr. Freddie Farnsworth? Is he
amazing? Even better. He's a teddy bear. So funny.
Really? He wasn't loud and boisterous? You didn't find yourself kind of...
I like the way you segued that down. Speaking of not being able to take anywhere or go out in public.
I don't know. I just picture him at that bar just with an open bottle of, Maker's Mark. Actually, no. Larceny. I knew Freddie and I were going to get along one day. Before going on the air, he saw me... I'm out of it, but I usually take a hit off my Larceny bottle, and most people have no idea what it was. And him just seeing, he's like, oh, if I knew it was going to be a Larceny type of night, it's like, oh, me and this guy are going to get along just fine. But yeah, I just picture the loud, boisterous, rambunctious Freddie just, holding court.
I mean, the actors loved him. They were pulling him left, right, and center. And, I was really lucky to have breakfast with him twice. And Taco, he holds court. That's his personality. He's that kind of guy. I mean, when was it? When did I arrive? Thursday night. And Lance was there with this lady. I was there. With Sarah and Freddie, and I think Ryan and his wife turned up later on, and he was holding court. He was brilliant. He's got a lot more stories, and he's just as great in person as he is through the computer screen. He really is. He's brilliant. Such a nice guy as well. He was really gracious,
I'm trying to think what's something you have to provide for Leighton to get the full American experience before he goes home. And I figure you got to take him to one of three places, and I'll let you decide which one, Henry. Either they take him to Walmart, a Super Target, or a Bass Pro Shop. One of those three stores to give him the full American experience.
Well, if I take him to a Walmart...
He can view the beauty and the dichotomy of the American experience, because you'll see a man in a dress.
Us a couple NASCAR t-shirts.
You get a NASCAR t-shirt. You'll see a dude in a dress, and you'll maybe put your wallet in your front pocket as you're walking through the parking lot.
That is a cultural experience that he needs.
I've got a Baby Ruth in my travel bag, if that counts.
No,
that chewing gum is it. With baseball on the front, the cartoon baseball character as well on the front. Does that count?
No, that won't get you there. We need to do better than that.
I'm trying. Can you guys hear me? Because either my headphone. Oh, okay, it was my headphones.
Yeah, we hear you fine.
I thought my microphone went out. I just switched from pot 1 to pot 4, but it turned out it was my headphones.
Good. You're good. We're probably not coming in that good because I don't have my headphones. I started using my AirPods. I figured out how to match them up to this laptop. So our next show, I'll use my AirPods. That when I was on Woody's show last week, that worked really good. I thought liked it way better than the goofy headphones.
Jeff, I feel remiss. You were saying earlier that you haven't been around for a while. Is there anything we need to get caught up on? I know you've been super busy and been active. Anything we need to get caught up on in your world over there?
Well, yeah, I accepted a position teaching this year on some content that I haven't covered before, with the stipulation that I started this past Saturday going through the teacher certification process through TEA, Texas Education Agency, and it's a 300-hour course in 10 months. So I actually had to put my bachelor's on hold to get the certification by May. So it's about 4 days a week right now for the next 3 weeks, and then after that, it's going to be worth it. I can't wait, but it's a lot, especially since my students come in the classroom Wednesday. That's our first day.
Ours are already back. And by the way, the training never stops. As you know, Carrie has been a 4th grade teacher for 8 years, and she just moved to 2nd grade. Lovely time to blow out her leg. But our school started last week, and over the weekend, she's like, I got these training videos I got to watch. I think it's like 40 minutes. Turns out she has 5 separate modules. Each module has 40 minutes worth of content. So this weekend, she's like, there's so much training to do. And so it never ends. It never ends. So prepare yourself for that. But you're going for high school, right?
Yeah, secondary. So it'll be a certification in trades and industries. So I'll be able to cover quite a bit. I'm actually this year I'm teaching 5 sections of principles of hospitality and tourism. And like what Leighton said, hospitality is kind of our thing here in America. And it's kind of an interesting class to be teaching. There's a lot of history in it, so I'm going to enjoy that, kind of make it my own. But it's important. People need these kind of skill sets of customer service and working with people, working for people. So that's some of the stuff I'll be covering. So because of some of my prior experience, that's going to help with this process. But it's a lot, but we do it.
Speaking of hospitality, I saw a TikTok this weekend, and it was a gentleman from another country, not America, and he was talking about the 5 things that annoyed him about America. And one of the things was our over inundation of advertising, and that has that stood out to you at all? Do we seem like we're just overwhelmed with advertising and billboards and just overall marketing here compared to what you see back home?
Question. I've noticed that on the what do you call it?
The motorway.
The motorway. What's it called? Oh, the highway.
That's the interstate, man.
The old interstate.
Carrots. I noticed there's a lot of service stops. There's a KFC, there's a Subway, there's a Sonic. Which Henry's son ordered a Coke and chocolate, which I thought was absolutely incredible. I noticed, like I said, there's a lot of service stops like that, and you do get that with the UK, but they're really spaced out with a service station. They're like 20 miles between each stop. I mean, unless you pull off and you're going into town, and obviously you go to a service station, a petrol station, when you fill up, you grab a Coke or something. But if you want to, a McDonald's or a KFC or a Pizza Hut, you go to they are 20 miles apart. But here I noticed that they were really close
every
together.
4 miles.
It was quite continuous. I've noticed, in terms of advertisement, there's a lot of Auburn and Alabama fans. People are really representing it in their college team over here.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of billboards.
That's all there is around here, man.
Now he's like, now I know why Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube have so much damn advertising. They're all American-based companies.
I didn't really pick up on anything. I mean, we went to Montevallo, which was, I thought that the town downtown was.
Yeah, I took him down to where
absolutely beautiful.
It was actually it was weird for me. Took him to the house I grew up in, where my dad wrote with the old breed, because my mom sold that house 5 years ago. So I contacted the people who bought it. I had not been down there since, and so we went and I kind of walked through the house for the first time in a long time. That was weird, but yeah, we went around Montevallo and saw a lot of things, and so yeah.
It would have to be weird to see your house with someone else's stuff in it.
BB Sledge, he was a.
Wait, hold on. Do what? Don?
I said it has to be weird to walk in your house you grew up in with someone else's crap in it.
Yeah, well, it's. I mean, as you guys know, Jeff, you've been out of pocket for a couple of weeks. I know you've been busy, but my mom had a tough stint in the hospital. Don, we've talked about it. Yep. She's in a rehab facility now, and I went and saw her this morning, and she's doing better, but that scale of what's better at 95, as we all know,
It's relative.
Is just different. And so, she wanted me to take Leighton down. She knows who Leighton is. She knows who you guys are. She wanted me to take Leighton down there. I had mixed feelings about it, and I knew if she was having a bad day and I was going to sit there and look at her, and just all that stuff starts going through your mind of what is going to happen one day, we all know.
Yeah.
I didn't want to do that, but she was having a pretty good day, relatively speaking. And so we went down there, but it is, yeah, man, it's a little weird. It was, those memories just come flooding back. It was kind of weird. Not bad. It was good, but
yeah. Well, it's just, I don't know. And we all going through it as we get older. I often say the older I get, the younger old gets. But yeah, when you start dealing with stuff like that, it kind of makes you think about your own mortality a little bit.
Yeah.
And, but yeah, it's cool though that she really gung ho on wanting you to take Leighton down there. And at least you have the idea of thinking, well, mom wants me to do this, and so I'm going to do it. At least make her happy. She's sitting there thinking about the fact that I'm doing this, and might kick some memories up in her head and bring a smile to her face. So why not, right?
Oh yeah, sure.
So absolutely.
It's a beautiful house.
What's that?
It really is. It's a beautiful house. It really is. And to see, this house.
Yeah.
I read With the Old Breed and after the Pacific came out, and obviously I've seen pictures of it since. So to see a house of someone, I've only seen in pictures, who I've read about, who I've seen portrayed on screen, numerous times since, with Joe Mazzala on Pacific, and to be there where he wrote that, pretty phenomenal. And to be there with his son, pretty phenomenal. To hear, Henry on the phone to his mother last night, and you're talking about me, and what you're doing, blah blah blah, and it's just like, it just seemed surreal that I am here in Alabama. Can't imagine many Brits come here to see people. We go to New York, we go to California. We don't come to Alabama, for a vacation. Not because
most people don't.
But no, we go to the pub. Not wrong. We go to New York. That's what
sure.
We go to,
Watch out! Next thing you know, he'll be dragging you to Mississippi.
And I'm sat here, like I said, in Alabama.
I made sure we got off at some good exits. And I'm sorry.
Oh, okay, dude.
No, well, I was thinking, going there, getting away from the New Yorks, the LAs, the Chicagos, the bigger cities, you're actually getting a truer picture of what America is.
Absolutely.
That's a good point.
I've often said the problem with our media is they're based out of LA, Chicago, New York, and they all have tunnel vision. They all assume that the entire country is like LA, Chicago, New York. And so when they're talking about their opinions and their ideologies, they're having these big city thoughts and big city ideologies, but most of the country is like where Jeff lives, where I live, where Henry lives, the quote unquote flyover states. But those flyover states are the real America, whereas the big cities they're ironically the minority, because most of us don't live on top of each other. Most of big yawn, Bailey. Most of us don't have the ability to walk a mile or two to get to work. Mm-hmm. So you're actually getting the experience. It's funny. This is Bailey, my Boston Terrier. And the first time we had Henry on, I'd read his dad's book, China Marine. And in there, he's talking about how when he came home from the war, he got to come home to his mom and the Boston Terrier. And I was talking to Henry about that. And just last week, I sent a text. I just happened to be Googling Eugene Sledge, and I found a picture of Eugene, his mom, and their Boston Terrier. So I was like, look what I found, Henry. I found a picture of your dad's dog. And I was stoked being a Boston Terrier fan. But it was kind of funny how that just kind of landed into my lap, because when I brought it up to Henry, I think the first time you were on here, you weren't quite sure, or you didn't seem to, must not have really came up in topic much. But I just thought it was cool that that photo landed in my lap. I was like, oh, sweet. I found the picture of his Boston. Because Bailey's just such a big part of our show. But
she is, man. I love it the way the dogs. I need to get Lulu down here.
Well, she actually lays in the bed in here the entire time we're doing our show, and just right around this time.
Yeah, get Lulu down
every
here.
time she just kind of chirps up and says, "Hey, pick me up, fool." But hey, real quick, Jeff, what project are you working on? You sent us a sweet up close photo of the cockpit seat you're painting, right? You're working on another model.
Oh. Yeah, I was showing that off to Leighton. This is the first. I'm doing a Mark V Spitfire and 148 scale, which is the scale I stick to. And this is the first time I've done any kind of aircraft from the RAF, and I wanted to change it up a little bit. I'm working on a very large display of kind of a dedication to the air war. Not necessarily the Mighty Eighth, but of course that's kind of the heart of it. But a lot of people don't realize how much those Spitfire squadrons were escorting our B-17, especially early on in the war. And I think we've covered that in one of our Memphis Belle episodes. It was kind of absurd to see a P-51D flying alongside the Memphis Belle, in spring of 1943. It just didn't happen. So, I've done the 17, I've done the P-47, and I thought, and everybody's done a P-51, and I have one. I'll eventually do it, but it was a great kit, and it comes with a lot of goodies for a kind of a ground display. So. That's as far as I've gotten. Basically, that cockpit could sit on the tip of my thumb, and that's as far as I've gotten in the last couple.
What
weeks.
Scale is it, Jeff?
48.
Okay. Who built whose kit is it?
It's
Tamiya,
a Tamiya. Yeah, it's
okay.
a Tamiya, and it's kind of a neat kit because they added in another sheet of decals with color paint scheme. Like a glossy. Photograph, and then there's an extra sprue of like 7 RAF pilots in different poses. There's a wave, there's a dog, there's a ladder, there's all kinds of stuff to kind of litter a scene at a runway somewhere. So that's my goal anyway. So the price was right and I picked it up.
Well, I appreciate the fact that you didn't just say, okay, I'm gonna paint the seat brown and paint the post green. I'm zooming in on my camera, on my phone, and you can see where on the hydraulics you painted certain parts of it silver, and it's just, you did a really good job on just the minor details. It doesn't just look like, okay, I'm gonna slap some green on here. It looks like there's some dirt stains and some, everything else. You just did a really good job on something that small and that minor. I can only imagine what the rest of this project's going to turn out to be like.
That's what I do.
Man, I'm wanted my little trying to get the garage fixed up where I could get my model bench. That's just kind of stalled out. Man, I want to get back to that so bad.
Yeah, we all kind of I'm looking on my podcast here, and it's still a mess. We all get started on stuff, and then just life gets in the way. But that's just the way it goes sometimes.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, we built a real nice garage here. I'm pretty sure you guys have seen pictures, and I've got a 12-foot long, workbench out there with 2 nice bar stools. And the idea was for me and my son to hang out there and build model airplanes. But honestly, I end up sitting right here in my office, just put something down on the desk, or I'll work on my roll top here. Because it's usually late at night, or when the baby's taking a nap, and I'm caught up on schoolwork or something, so to go all the way down in the garage and everything, I just do it right here with all of my motivation. Everything in here is World War II. So,
and we all live in pretty hot and humid environments. So I think you guys are probably like me, where most of the man cave garage based activities get done in the wintertime around midnight, because you're not out there sweltering in the heat, just dying oh, this is horrible.
Well, and you guys know I'm restoring my 42 GPW too, which is in the garage. And there's times where
you suck on all sorts of levels.
From the garage.
By the way, just all sorts of levels. You suck. You got a nice GPW, you got a kick-ass car. But yeah, have you and your son watched any more movies on the projector from the not quite so comfortable front seats of the GPW?
I can't remember the last one we talked about. I'm pretty sure we did. I watched Tuskegee Airmen.
Mm-hmm.
I think the last one I talked about was oh gosh, what the heck was it? I don't recall now, but there's been one or two, but yeah, it's pretty hot, and with school ramping up and everything kind of falling back in. That's been tough, but I'm still reading. I still keep up on my reading, that's for sure.
Well, speaking of reading, it's about that time of the episode, so we'll start off with Jeff. Jeff, what you reading?
So yeah, I just finished one, and I'm about halfway through the next one. So the one I recently finished, and I've been calling this the wrong title. I've been saying Carlson's Raiders, but it's Carlson's Raid.
Okay.
The Daring Marine Assault on Macon by George W. Smith. I want to say this was published around early 2000s, somewhere in there, 2001, maybe something like that. I've never read anything about the Second Raider Battalion. I've read, Edson's Raiders, but I was interested to kind of see. I actually picked this book up for $5 with a whole bunch of other books when I was up in New Jersey at the Millville Army Airfield. And it was a P-47 base, and so this was interesting. There's a lot of questions still unanswered, identities that still need to be confirmed. Was the entire raid an epic failure? Probably, because it was strictly done by the Marine Corps and the Army wasn't involved in anyway. So it's interesting.
Well, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. There is a clear difference in leadership styles between those two Raider leaders, right?
Oh, and I didn't realize that. And it goes into a lot of detail about Edson's Raiders on the East Coast and Carlson's on the West Coast. And boy, there was just a personality conflict between Carlson and Edson that was never going to get resolved. And that, that's just how it is. There's always some kind of rivalry, inter service, and then, even smaller and smaller. And sometimes you have different platoons at each other's neck, so there's always some kind of a rivalry. And I did not know how big of a rivalry there was. I didn't realize FDR's son was Carlson's XO for this raid. And I did not realize how poorly Carlson was treated after the raid. It was interesting because I felt that way a few times in my life, where you think you've done something so great. Sometimes you get too much publicity and everybody starts hating it, and then it gets shut down. And you sit back going, what the heck did I do wrong? So that was interesting to me.
What I find interesting about those groups too, whether it's the Raiders or the Marauders, they were kind of, the special forces back then were kind of left up their own devices. They're like, okay, here's a group of guys, you're the leader, do it your way. You guys are special forces, figure it out, do it your own way. And that's where the different leadership and different ways of doing things came in.
Yeah, absolutely. They were definitely, between those first two Raider battalions, it was certainly two different leadership styles completely. But they interviewed they had a lot of dialogue from the guys that served with Carlson and that were actually on the raid, stuff that was pulled from like the 90s, and none of them really had anything bad to say about Carlson. There were some things where they questioned, man, I don't know why he didn't do this, or I don't know why he stalled instead of taking, the initiative there. But other than that, the guy was still a brilliant leader, and he just kind of got kicked to the curb, and he never led men again in combat.
Wow.
And it's sad. And although Edson's the one that committed suicide, I thought that was the irony of the whole thing. I was so that was a great read. And then I've heard of this book. I see it a lot of times in the notes section of a lot of the books that I read on the 8th Air Force and B-17s. So I thought, okay, I got to find this book. And you don't necessarily judge it by the cover, because that is a newer photograph of these guys. This is not a colorized photo. This is a posed modern photo. At least I think it sure looks like it. But this is a weekend read. This is a very, very thin book.
Oh yeah.
But like I said, it keeps showing up in so many other, as a reference, that I just had to have it. And there's a little bit of a spoiler alert, but if you read the back first, like I did, not only is this considered a masterpiece memoir from World War II, but the guy's killed in action.
Wow.
In October of 1944. He was a co-pilot, 35 missions with a B-17, finally got into a P-51 and was shot down during an escort mission in the P-51. And he was just barely turned 24 years old. But I have to tell you, the way this guy writes, it's eerie. Knowing that he doesn't come back, and sorry, but it's on the back. It's not that much of a spoiler. it's eerie to read from the very first page because, that's kind of in the back of your mind that the things that he's talking about that he's going to do after the war, and seeing these guys getting snuffed out in sometimes very violent and very descriptive ways, it's the other guy, it's not him, his luck's going to hold.
Yeah.
So but the detail of the room that he lived in, what was on each shelf, how many pairs of socks, where they hung their bath towel and wash rag. It's incredible. It's just this book, the way this guy could write, to me is the equivalent of if Ernest Hemingway would have been killed driving in the ambulance in World War I.
Is that why the book?
That's how much got lost when this guy went down.
Is that why the book's so thin? Because it's lifted from his own letters and diaries and not full of
fluff?
Yeah,
this is his journal and his mom, I guess, spent a lot of time and a lot of effort to get it published. It was actually first published in England in 1947, wasn't published in America until 1952.
Wow.
But I mean, this is when it comes to memoirs, and we've got some mixed company here that have, they've among those that have written the best, but man, this is unlike anything I've ever read from the Second World War.
I'll add that to my
the last thing I wanted to add was I'm curious from our listeners. We're all dorks here. Okay.
I'm a nerd. I'm not a dork.
So I'm curious if you guys do the same thing that I do. So when I'm reading a book about the Raider Battalion, naturally I have to have my original Raider patch that a Raider gave me as my bookmark. Or if I'm reading something like this, what's going to come out of here. Now my good bullion patch is sewed on my uniform, but I got to have a Mighty Eighth bookmark. So I'm curious. I was thinking about that before the show. What we've got some very voracious readers that are followers of our show, and not, the hosts aside.
I wish I was that classy.
I'm just curious. Do you guys use something that was signed by a veteran that was at that battle, or do you use a patch? Or
no,
am I just weird? Y'all help me out. What is it? Mail call at WTSP?
Yeah, email us at mailcall@WTSPWorldWar2.com. I wish I was that classy. I'm more white trash. I use business cards, chunks of toilet paper, anything really, because what tends to I do have one actual.
Don uses his welfare receipt.
Well, back in the day, I would have used the food stamp, but now they come on debit cards, so that's out. But I do have a legit bookmark. But like right now, I transitioned because we were talking last week. Someone posted pictures of the brig issued P-41s from the Pacific, and someone's like, I don't recall ever seeing photos of the black dot. And so I said, well, it was in it was in Lecky's helmet for my pillow, and I pulled the passage out. And when I was quickly looking through that book, I was reading through, and I was like, oh, I forgot how of a fantastic writer he was. So I actually put down that modern day book I was reading, and I started reading The Helmet for My Pillow again for the 5th time, and so I'm back on that. But no, sadly I don't have elegant bookmarks. I just grab whatever's nearest by so I can at least pick up where I left off. What about you, Henry? What's your preferably when it comes to marking your books?
The bookmark I use is a little piece of a note card that when I pulled out my old edition of Strongman Arm that my dad had read, he had scribbled a note on there, page 459. Only, I think it's upstairs. I have to go get it, but it just scribbled on there. You can barely see it. Only example of a bondside charge in this chapter. And I just happened to find it. I'm like, okay, that'll be my bookmark.
That's it. You guys listening at home, put your keyboards down. There's no beating that. No reason to send off those emails. But if you want to send the emails, go ahead and send them to mailcall@WTSPWorldWar2.com. Leighton, what do you use for bookmarks?
Sometimes I'll use the dust cover if I'm really early in, or I'll use a business card. I'll use, if I've had it for Christmas, there'll be a bit of Christmas wrapping paper. Or if I've had, a chocolate bar that, has come in a cardboard packaging, it'll be a piece of that ripped off as well. Not as classy as Jeff's. I think that's brilliant, by the way. I think that's friggin' outstanding.
You said cardboard from a candy bar. I'm gonna go online and order me a reproduction K-ration box just so I can use that. That'll be cool. But what are you reading, Henry?
Well, I started a reread on Helmet for My Pillow last week, but I wanted to prop this book that I finished right before that, this little book called Combat Aerial Escapades. by J. Hunter Reinberg. Short little book, 165 pages, but it's just got, Jeff, you've probably read it, Jeff. It's got some great description. He flew F-4Fs in the Solomons, and then later flew Corsairs off Peleliu, VMF 122. But he just goes into, he had several kills. J. Hunter Reinberg was his name. And just his description of, took a bullet damage, had to lean his mixture out. He gets into his cockpit maneuvers, how he handled things. It's just a great book. I mean, I was like 165 pages. It could have been 365, and I would have wanted more.
What about you, Leighton? What are you reading lately?
I'm reading a book on the 95th Bomb Group. It's got a few post-it notes in it. I don't know if people know, but I'm behind the page History People. That it's an I want to write a blog, and I decided to seen a book on eBay. I sent a picture to Jeff a few weeks ago. It's like the operational logbook of each aircraft and what missions they've flown and what crews perished with those aircrafts. I randomly picked out an aircraft called, let me just get it, Roger the Lodger. And so I'm now reading this to pick up on any references with the missions that they've flown and any other detail on them. So I'm reading this, Courage, Honor, and Victory.
What's his last name?
By Ian Hawkins. So I'm using the dust cover at the moment. I just lost my page. Obviously that's an outstanding hardback cover. Yeah, so this is what I'm reading at the moment.
For the love of Pete, Henry, get the man some toilet paper. He just lost his page. This is a good topic. I kind of brought it in the past. With the exception of Amazon or eBay, where do you guys tend to find your World War II books? I oftentimes find them like I'm just walking through the lines of like a Bell's Outlet or just a random general store who has discounted books, and oftentimes you'll find a World War II themed book there. And I've grabbed a few of them marked down like $5 to $8 every once in a while. What's your favorite place to find a book other than eBay or Amazon, Jeff?
Honestly, I typically try to not pay for a book because I've had so many given to me. Prime example today, right before I meet the teacher, one of the history teachers who I pal around with quite a bit, he handed me a book called The Last Hero, Wild Bill Donovan, I think was the guy's name. Mm-hmm. Beyond Glory by Larry Smith, and a big book that has nothing but posters of Glasnost and Perestroika, big Russian posters in there. So nice. I'm constantly handed books all the time, but if there's a specific one, I'm like Serenade to the Big Bird. I don't know if I mentioned that's the name of the memoir. It's Serenade to the Big Bird. Burt Stiles is the pilot. So I had to find that exact one, that specific one. I wanted to read it. So I had to do the whole Amazon thing. But I mean, guys, I've got what you see behind me isn't even close to the amount of books I have just on the Second World War. So for me to spend $30 on a book is retarded for me right now with the amount that I still haven't read and the amount that I keep accruing. Because people, they know when they know you're a collector and you appreciate it, boy, you do them a favor is usually what happens. I do a lot of people favors by taking their books. So
what about you, Henry? Where do you oftentimes find a book that maybe you weren't expecting to find?
Well, I mean, it's going to be, I do get most of my stuff off Amazon, to be honest with you. Because I'll think of a book, or like I write stuff down, book ideas that we talk about that come to my mind or whatever. But like we've kind of all said, I mean, I've accumulated since I got back into all this a year ago. I've ordered so many books, and I can't buy any more right now because I've got to read what I got. Yeah. So, but Amazon, I do get them off Amazon, I guess.
And Leighton, how about you, friend?
Abe Books website. Abe Books. It's secondhand books, like not necessarily like eBay, but it's if you're looking for a book, you just put in the search bar, and obviously it'll bring up all the books, various editions, hard copy for hardback, softcover, autographed, first edition, and obviously various prices. And fun enough, A-Books is where I picked up China Marine, and it was advertised as signed by the author. Obviously, I didn't know that Henry's father had died when that book was published, but I thought, oh my God, that's amazing. I bought the book. It got shipped from Mobile, Alabama, and it was signed by his brother, John.
Nice.
Which prompted me, I thought, right, with We Happy Few, we're working on a Pacific event, and that started this because I called John at his office in Mobile, who passed my details on to Henry, and lo and behold, here I am now. So A-Books, yeah, it's other than that amazing little bit of thing, I got some absolute crackers off there. Yeah, A-Books. That's all I can.
So they do England, Europe, United States.
All over the
Because
world,
I've heard of A-Books.
I have to check that out.
It's a secondhand bookshop, online bookshop.
Well,
There you go.
we're just about going to wrap it up, but as we always do, let's go down the list. Jeff, do you got anything you want to plug? Get out there? Any projects coming up? Anything going on?
Yeah, I'm still working on the Pathfinder project, the Eureka Beacons, but also if any of our listeners have any details on any way I can talk to or get a hold of dog handlers, but really preferably if there's any left from World War II. I'm working with a guy who's got an incredible project. I don't know how much I can talk about it because the guy's kind of he's real big on Instagram. He's a former Special Forces soldier who was a dog handler and reached out to me to help him. I just sent him a flash drive with everything, all of my dog research. I've got, over 6 minutes of color footage when the Army landed on Guam, combat footage, no audio or anything, but, and Marine Corps publications done after the war on the recapture of Guam and how the war dogs were important. So I'm helping what I can, but if any of our listeners know any other World War II dog handlers, because they're trying to do a documentary with this. So if anybody has any leads, we've got a couple nom. I think he just found a one from Korea, but if there's any World War II canine or dog handlers left that would be willing to be interviewed, it would help this project immensely.
Or if your grandfather, great-grandfather did that and has diaries, letters home, anything like that, anything would help. Reach out to Jeff through his social media. You can email us at mailcall@wtspworldwar2.com. You can reach out to us on our Facebook, Instagram. But yeah, I mean, even if they're not alive, if you may have letters that your grandfather wrote home. Anything that might help on this topic, please send them our way. What about you, Henry? Got anything you want to plug or get out there?
Last week was really busy, culminating and going over to New Orleans. So I did my show with Woody, World War II TV on VMF 114 on Peleliu with Damon Stout. That was fun. I felt like that was well received. So that's the only thing I'll mention right now.
And of course, our guest, Mr. Hughes. We know you got a couple things to plug, so why don't you go ahead and get those addresses out there and plug your podcast, please.
So, speaking of podcast, there's going to be a few changes, hopefully in the next couple of weeks, where we're going to look to streamline it to make it a more Band of Brothers unofficial podcast. So, bringing on another actor to replace me, who co-hosts with Matthew Leach, who plays Floyd Talbot. It's very much in the early stages of developing that at the moment, because I feel like it'll just be a more attractive, sexier proposition to the listeners. We've got a Battlefield Tour 2 of the Battle of the Bulge in November with Freddie Joe and Phil McKee, who plays Colonel Strayer in the show, attending that, as well as Matthew Leach as well, who was a wonderful host. And we're looking at, and obviously because of the demand of that, and because that sold out so quickly, we're looking at running another identical tour in January. So you're getting a real Bulge experience there with the weather.
Nice.
So that's looking to happen as well.
Fantastic. And we want to thank each and every one of you for joining us for another episode of the What's the Scuttlebutt podcast. If you want to support what we do here at the show, please head over to WTSPWorldWar2.com and click on that Patreon link and sign up and subscribe. It'll cost you $1 a month. There's a few other plans on there too, but you know what? We'd be perfectly happy with that $1 a month plan. And while you're over there, please head over to our YouTube channel, like, subscribe, and watch some of our videos. And that's the best way, the best way to help support the show and what we do here. Simply share us with a friend, someone like-minded, someone who enjoys military history, World War II history, or the like. And for myself, Jeff Henry, and Leighton Hughes, we will talk to you all next week.
This has been a Digital 410 production.